My name is Tom Rozek, and I am the Chief Spokesperson for the United States Attorney's Office here in Los Angeles. I want to begin by saying congratulations to the FBI agents and LAPD officers who participated in this morning's takedown that targeted gang members and their associates here in the harbor area. It is a testament to the professionalism and expertise of these law enforcement officers that today's operation took place without incident or injury to anyone involved. The prosecutors in the U.S. Attorney's Office are proud to work with these dedicated agents and officers to target the gun violence and narcotics trafficking that causes so much pain in our communities. Today's arrests signal the end of an investigation that started in late 2020 and focused on some of the most dangerous gang members in the harbor area. 7 defendants were arrested this morning pursuant to 3 federal criminal complaints that allege various narcotics and weapons offenses. 1 man charged in federal court was already in custody, and we are continuing to search for 2 federal fugitives. Those defendants arrested today will be making their initial appearances this afternoon in federal court. In addition to the 7 defendants arrested on federal charges, 4 other defendants were arrested on local charges. Therefore, a total of 11 defendants were taken into custody today on federal and state charges, and there are 2 fugitives, with 1 already being in custody. The defendants arrested today allegedly trafficked or possessed a significant amount of contraband. And just focusing on the charges filed in federal court, we're talking about well over 50 pounds of methamphetamine, about 23,000 fentanyl pills, more than 5 pounds of powdered fentanyl, and 23 firearms, some of which were ghost guns. 2 of the federal complaints unsealed today outline a series of transactions arranged between undercover operatives and incarcerated members and associates of the Mexican Mafia prison gang. As we have seen in many other federal cases over the years, members of the Mexican Mafia, often while they are in prison, exert significant control over Latino street gangs, and then they receive a significant percentage of the profits derived from the gang's illegal activities. In the main case unsealed today, a law enforcement source called a member of the Mexican Mafia who was using a contraband phone while serving a life prison sentence. That Mexican Mafia member, who oversees the Westside Wilmas gang, directed an associate who has been sentenced to death to arrange drug and gun deals with an undercover law enforcement officer. Over the course of the next 5 months, law enforcement was able to make numerous purchases of fentanyl, methamphetamine, and firearms. Most of those arrested today were gang members and their associates who were peddling large quantities of dangerous drugs and weapons at the behest of the Mexican Mafia. Today's arrests are the latest chapter in this investigation called Operation Wipeout. Previously in this investigation, federal prosecutors charged 11 other gang members and associates from the harbor area and charged them with drug, gun, and robbery offenses. 3 of those previously charged have already been convicted and sentenced, and they were ordered to serve terms ranging from 10 to 20 years in federal prison. Now, I want to stress that the charges being announced today are allegations. Those defendants are presumed to be innocent, and prosecutors must prove their case in court in order to secure convictions. But if they are convicted, these defendants will face significant time in federal prison, with most of them facing potential life sentences. The investigation by the FBI and the LAPD targeted dangerous gangs responsible for unacceptable levels of violence in the southern part of the city of Los Angeles. But today, we have taken a major step to reduce gang activity, to reduce violence, and to reduce the flow of deadly drugs like fentanyl. This is not the first time that federal authorities have joined with our local law enforcement partners to fight criminal gangs. nor will it be the last. Today's arrests signal that we will continue to pursue street gangs until families in every Southern California neighborhood can lead safe and peaceful lives. Thank you, and please welcome FBI Assistant Special Agent in Charge, Sean Hayworth.
Thank you, Tom. Good morning. My name is Sean Hayworth. I'm an Assistant Special Agent in Charge of the FBI Los Angeles Field Office. This case, known as Operation Wipeout, was initiated by the South Los Angeles Violent Criminal Task Force, which has members on both the LAPD and FBI. It was to target violent gang members centralized in the harbor area of the Los Angeles County. Wipeout is a natural succession to an earlier investigation which Tom referenced, known as Operation Tidal Wave, which resulted in several prosecutions. At the federal level, we work with the local police and rely on their intelligence and familiarity with the communities to identify gangs committing violence and extorting local businesses. We then target the hierarchy of these criminal enterprises, and our collective goal is to dismantle or wipe out the leadership. This investigation focused on 3 validated Mexican Mafia members who allegedly controlled Hispanic gangs in the harbor area. According to LAPD intelligence, members and associates of the Westside Wilmas and Eastside Wilmas gangs were committing acts of violence and drug trafficking with ties to the Sinaloa cartel. They have allegiance and are under the control of the Mexican Mafia and carry out the threats which have a stranglehold on the harbor community. Neighborhoods under this kind of organized control live under constant intimidation, and many suffer violent circumstances. During today's operation, multiple SWAT tactical teams were used at locations where subjects were believed to have a strong propensity for violence and extensive criminal history. This morning, hundreds of agents, officers, and other personnel conducted several pre-dawn arrests and searches at various locations safely and without incident. 12 subjects were taken into custody and will be in court today. The task force did not locate 3 individuals who are now considered fugitives. They are, and I believe they will be shown by our press. They are Fernando Neva, 28 of Los Angeles, Eliana Angelica Garcia Zepeda, 26 of Los Angeles, Ramon Gonzalez Jr., 24, known to be in Hesperian Bell Gardens. We're making the fugitive photos available publicly and ask anyone with information to avoid action independently, but contact the LAPD or FBI. We can be reached at tips.fbi.gov or 1-800-CALL-FBI. Throughout our investigation, we coordinated with our partners at the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitations, or CDCR, which led us to map an intricate network of Mexican Mafia activities within the CDCR system and the activities they direct on the streets of the harbor area. As Tom outlined, we were able to introduce an undercover officer to the targets and negotiate 20 drug and weapons transactions with the imprisoned Mexican Mafia leaders, who then sent trusted gang members to deliver the products to the undercover officer. This resulted in significant seizures that Tom mentioned. And this, a part of this morning's searches, we also collected, on top of the items that Tom mentioned, 17 additional weapons and a significant amount of fentanyl. While these numbers may seem arbitrary to many, they will have a significant impact to the harbor community. Our ability to take violent criminals, illegal guns, and illegal drugs off the street mitigates the violence towards taking place and may save lives. As Captain McGuire will point out, this investigation also led to multiple charges at the state level and is a perfect example of how strong partnerships, such as this one, leads to real results. And now I'd like to introduce Captain McGuire.
I can't express the sense of gratitude I have of all the people that are not on camera, the investigators on both the LAPD and FBI side that put this case together. Many long hours, a lot of hard work to bring this case to bear. Many of you, familiar faces in this room, were here about 2 months ago where we had a similar operation with the ATF, in which we targeted the Eastside Wilmas. Today, with our other federal friends, the FBI, we began this investigation that started with the Westside Wilmas, but actually then, as they have detailed, quickly grew to the upper echelons of the criminal street gangs that have been targeting the Wilmington community. So while all of these weapons on the tables that you see are quite impressive, the seizures of the narcotics are good stats that we throw out there. To me, as a local police captain here, these don't just represent guns. They don't just represent narcotics. They represent the safety of this beautiful community that we have surrounding the harbor area. As you look at this table of all these guns on this table, each one of these guns was destined to get into the hands of a criminal, a violent criminal, which is scary, especially when you think about the fully automatic machine gun that sits right behind me. So due to the great work, great stuff that happened today and also in the past to bring this case together, it's no accident that in the local harbor area we've seen a 23% reduction in shootings. On top of that, I would just like to add, while you see many pictures of narcotics and guns before you, what you don't see are pictures of homicide victims. And that's because in the harbor area, to date, and knock on wood, we have not experienced a homicide. This is the first time in the 21st century that we have reached this point in the calendar year without having a homicide in the harbor area. To put it into perspective, on average, we would typically have 6 homicides at this point in this year. So a lot of this effort, you can see, has paid off at the local level, and that we have 6 less families that have been ripped and torn apart by violence. So we cannot express our gratitude and thanks to all of our many partners, the FBI, the U.S. Attorney's Office, our local government and state officials, our nonprofit organizations that are all working together to make this a safer community. With that, we will open it up for any questions.
Captain, can we get your first and last name and spelling, please?
That one I can answer. That's an easy one. Brent McGuire, B-R-E-N-T, M-C-G-U-Y as in young, R-E. And otherwise, I'm going to defer to the experts here.
So all of the weapons that we see and the images of the pills and what other narcotics, this is all stuff that was seized today during the operation?
No, these items were seized previously in Operation Wipeout. The 16 or 17 guns, I don't have the final count, seized this morning, and the fentanyl, or the suspected fentanyl, is currently being processed, so it's not here today. These are firearms that were seized prior in this investigation, some of which are directly related to the charges that we've unsealed today.
Okay, but not, and the same with the pictures of the...
Same deal.
From
Same deal.
and same operation, different...
Correct. This operation's been going on for about 29 months. It started just before Christmas in 2020, so we're just past 2 years. This is the culmination of it, but this is not all of it. It's a pretty shocking arsenal here, but this is not all of it.
Now, you had mentioned 11 arrests total.
Total.
Gentleman with the FBI had mentioned 12.
I believe I was including the person that was already in custody.
Oh, okay.
Correct.
Just wanted to-
What are those? What are we looking at there?
Fentanyl.
All of it on both boards?
Exactly.
Really?
Yeah. We're talking about pound quantity, not necessarily here, but pound quantities of fentanyl. Remember, you know, the fentanyl crisis, which has been killing people on a daily basis just in Los Angeles County, this is where it comes from. It takes a tiny amount of that drug to cause a fatal overdose. And it's unbelievable how many people may have died as a result of these drugs once they hit the street.
And these came into the United States through the Sinaloa cartel?
A substantial portion of the fentanyl that is in distribution in the United States is attributed to the Sinaloa cartel and one other cartel in Mexico, but Sinaloa tends to traffic more to the California area.
Run me through one more time how this particular operation worked. You guys are talking about having an undercover officer connect with Mexican mafia folks in the jails somehow, and then got them to direct, and then they directed the gang members, some of them who were arrested today.
So I focused on the charges that we unsealed today. There were 3 criminal complaints unsealed today. There will be a news release going out. We're trying to get it just finalized to get all the correct numbers in it. And that what I refer to as the main complaint will be emailed out also. Okay, so with that said, there was a number of actions that took place previously that led to charges, gun transactions, narcotics transactions, and federal robbery prosecution. What we were talking about today was an undercover operative made contact with a Mexican mafia member who oversees one of the Wilmas gangs. He then got in contact with an associate of the Mexican Mafia, the man on death row, who also had a contraband cell phone at San Quentin. He was the point person for the undercover officer who arranged all of the deals that were documented in the charges that we're announcing today. I believe it was a total of about 20, it may be a little bit less. But all of those drugs, the 23,000 fentanyl, the 51 pounds of meth, that's all attributed to the deals that were negotiated by the Mexican Mafia member and his top assistant in prison, and then the operatives out here, the gang members out here that are actually conducting the transactions, those are the individuals that we took into custody today.
When it comes to the trafficking aspect of it, we're in Harbor City. Can you talk specifics about how these drugs and guns got here? Were the ships involved? Anything like that?
We don't know, is the long and the short of it. Where the wholesale quantities of these drugs came in, it's anybody's guess. But it's a very good guess that they came from Mexico, and a very good guess that they can be attributed to the Sinaloa cartel.
And also, can you talk about how your mission to stop these weapons and drugs from ending up here continues, even though these guys end up in prison and on death row? Because obviously these guys are working from the inside, navigating it on the outside.
Essentially what we have are mid-level and low-level drug deals that are here. These are not, semi-trucks filled with drugs that we're talking about. That is a larger part of our overall efforts to combat the scourge of fentanyl, drug trafficking overall. The same applies to guns. ATF is involved in any number of gun trafficking investigations. We have a number of pending prosecutions on the federal side. If you read the documents that we'll provide you a little bit later, some of the guns involved here, sitting here, were trafficked in from Arizona. At least one of them that I know of was stolen in Arizona. So there's any number of ways that these narcotics and guns end up in our communities. We are trying to combat them at all levels. This investigation focused on the gang activity here in the harbor area. That's what we've targeted. It is one aspect of our overall fight on violent crime and narcotics trafficking. How about one more?
Who were the guns destined for?
Would you mind telling us more about the 3 outstanding fugitives?
Such as? They're fugitives and we want them. And if anybody sees them, they should contact law enforcement so we can arrest them.
We'll get them up.
We'll get them up. And I'm sure the FBI can get you like JPEGs or stills of them. So what they're specifically charged with, I don't know off the top of my head. So one more.
Who is the end user of the guns?
Criminals. These are not gun stores that are operating. These are not citizens that are going into gun shops. These are gangsters who are selling guns, and guess who's buying them? Criminals. Thank you for being here today.